Hey everyone, welcome. My name is Tina, and in today's video, we are going to discuss everything and anything about addictions. And I am bringing through Matthew Perry to showcase his soul contract and to also discuss the addictions that he struggled with in this lifetime. I've already opened the space through my angels and guides so that we can have a clear connection, especially with Mercury retrograde going on right now. And hopefully, we will be able to communicate and get through some messages. I may pull some cards. I'm going to kind of let Matthew direct the flow of this particular video. So, the first thing that we're going to talk about is who is Matthew Perry? He was an American actor, best known for playing Chandler Bing on the TV sitcom Friends. And he is beloved by many for that role. Gave us great joy watching him. He was also known for his struggles with addiction and had quite a journey in this lifetime. And so I would like to explain that through a soul contract. Even though addiction was not something he overcame in this lifetime, he was still able to fulfill some of the aspects of his soul contract, through his philanthropy and his advocacy for addicts, and definitely through his memoir, Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing, which is his addiction issues. And so that was a huge, big part of the fulfillment of his soul contract. And I got goosebumps because those are very important things. I also want to give him credit because even though he went down this very dark path, he also wants me to highlight the fact that it is bringing attention to a lot of these doctors and the various nefarious people that were driving some of this addictions, and that it's deeper than just drug dealers and addicts, and it just goes into a much deeper, darker realm. And so he did want to bring up that that was part of his journey here, is to help to bring light to that. So again, we a lot of times we don't know what people's paths are. We can judge them all we want, but we don't do that here. Here we try and give everyone a voice. They love to come through with their messages and let us know how they're doing. And everything serves the light in one way or another. So I'm very proud to have him come through to walk us through the addictions that we take on. And so, what are addictions? Addictions are set up as experiences chosen by your soul contract, in order for you to overcome them and to learn the valuable lessons associated with having an addiction. And so, depending on where this is in your chart, this it can determine how much of a problem you will have with the addiction. And I'll talk more about that when we look at Matthew's chart. So, any addiction is a pattern that we have developed that is generally bad for the body and any of our healthy other human relationships that we may have. And when we try to quit, we get very stuck. Most obvious are things like heroin, crack, alcohol, but there can be lesser obvious ones. Smoking's one because that's very toxic to the body. Food can be an addiction. Sex, money can be an addiction. Uh, Achievements can be an addiction. So again, it can go very, very deeper than the obvious, most toxic things that we can struggle with. So, on the path to alignment, it's always necessary to check in on what is going on in the mind with addiction. The core belief is the mind tells us that something outside of in the material world can fix or override what is happening inside. For Matthew, he is saying that this started very early in his life. Now, when he was just a few weeks old, he was a very colicky baby, as a lot of babies are, because they can be very sensitive and coming into this dense environment. And depending on what's going on with the souls around them, it can create a lot of turmoil. So the babies can come through as being very colicky. And so Matthew was one of those babies. And the doctors at that time prescribed barbiturates for him to help settle him down. So this starts for him very early. I'm not surprised because it's in a very karmic aspect in his soul contract. And then it also goes back to some other childhood trauma that he brought up, which is he was pushed to fly at a very early age when his parents divorced, and he was forced to do this alone. So he was forced to travel by himself at a very young age, which was like the age of 5. That very young, really caused a lot of anxiety and fear and insecurity in him, he's telling me. So these patterns can get developed at a very, very early age, and they can get activated. So let's, I want to show you Matthew's chart so we can bring that through, and then we're going to talk about some of the beliefs. He's got 8 core beliefs that were tied to the addiction for him. And so we're going to go through each one of them, and I'll show you where it sits in his chart. And then we can pull some few cards on that as well, but we want to get into what the recovery can look like for someone, because there's always a way out. This is never meant to be all encompassing. It is never meant to be an end all for someone. It is meant for all of us to learn and grow from these addictions. So let me share my screen. And so here is Matthew Perry, and his birth name is Matthew Langford Perry. And you know, I always look at the soul contracts, and they are based off of our birth name. And we are given, you know, this beautiful chart to work through. And so let me get some things set up here for us. So I want to get my little pencil going here so that I can direct us as to where we're headed. And so when the first thing that I notice in a Matthew's chart is he has in his challenges, which these are very karmic aspects. If you are new to the soul contract, have not seen this before, I do have a short introductory video I always put in the description box, and I encourage you to look at it because it says, kind of tells you how I set up the soul contract, and it gives you a little bit of a background so that you have a better understanding. It's very short. So, but for him, again, we always want to look at these challenges, and we also want to look at the fact that he does have dominant vibrations, and dominant vibrations will bring through the energies of that number very heavily during your lifetime. And this is no different from him, because the beliefs that Matthew, the core beliefs that were keeping him stuck and keeping him in this illusion of addiction and not being able to break free, are, for him, there were 8. And the first one is the belief of control. You know, many believe that they can stop using it any time, that, you know, they're really in control, that it's not as bad as, you know, I know he's saying that people brought this up to him. There were his friends, cast members tried to have an intervention with him. He said did not go well. He was not ready to see that he had a real problem. And this is tied to the 7 in physical challenges, because 7s in physical challenges, which is a very karmic aspect, is all about what is real and what isn't. So it's this very illusionary energy, and we can get caught up in the fact that what is real in our mind is not really what's happening. And it also is tied to control. Sevens have to learn how to let go of control because they try to control others. So he would have this illusion that he has a lot of control and wasn't really realizing, again, when it's in a karmic position, how out of control that he was. And so that was where this belief of control was going on and not getting him to really fully see the the whole picture. The second belief he had was escaping reality, and he talks about that in a lot of his uh, interviews. If you've watched him, once he had that first drink, oh, he was like, "This is awesome." It gives you this illusion that you can relax and get away from it all. And it's again, it's an illusion. It's the mind controlling what's really happening. And there's a lot of things going on in the body that he was not recognizing how he was feeling, and he had gone through many illnesses, and it was so hard on his body. So again, that belief of escaping reality is also to the sevens, because the sevens, again, we're talking about this illusion and what's real and what's not real. So this is definitely tied to that escaping reality sevens like to do. And so then the third belief that he was struggling with is, I can just have one, and I'll just do it this one time. Or he had this very impulsive uh, ability and impulsive energy going on, where he would jump into something. And this is tied to the fives in his chart, and the fives can be very reckless and impatient. And so he wasn't really ready to, even though he had done some of the work, and we'll talk about that when we get to the recovery piece, he was still being very reckless. And fives are here to learn about, this makes him very sensitive, his body, and it's to learn to take care of the body. So he was completely ignoring the signs from his body because he had many illnesses, very near life to death experiences with his body, that he was not ready to fully let go of some of these beliefs. And so number four belief was this theory of a reward. Oh, yeah, I worked hard all day and I'm going to go have a drink after work. And he is, saying these are the things that were going through his mind. I feel I'm more social and I'm more likable and I'm more funny when I'm drinking. And so then there's this is what he says was playing in his mind. And that is actually attached to the fours here in his talents. It was part of his self expression, but the negative side of the fours can be a little bit self-indulgent, and they make excuses for, oh, I'm going to eat this bad food as a reward, or I'm going to do this because it makes me feel so good. And so you get the idea. So it was based on that reward system that we trap ourselves a little bit into. I deserve this, when it's really a very self-indulgent and not good for the body. So the other belief he had was tied to addiction, is a belief of being special, being unique. No one understands me. They don't really see how it's affecting me and how hard it is for me. So what they do is, this is another thing negative coming from the fours, is they self-isolate, push others away. And so that is driven also by the mind. And he was doing that a lot, where he was making excuses like that. He would drink and do drugs a lot alone, and that is from that fours and this illusion of, well, I no one knows me, better than me, instead of connecting with others and asking for help. So the number six belief that Matthew had going on was the belief that he was functioning okay. He was holding down a job. He was making money hand over fist. Everything's going great. He's like it's not really affecting anyone, even though his loved ones were so concerned. His friends, who were real true friends of his, were really concerned about him. And he burned some bridges with them. He's saying that he can see that now, which is why he was alone, and how he was isolating himself. And again, this is a little bit of that 4 and that 5 combination, or 4 and 7, I'm sorry, combination of, you know, isolating and, but still this creating this reality of, well, because I have these things, I must be doing something right. I can't be, all bad. And so number 7 of the belief that Matthew was carrying was this belief of belonging, that this was actually connecting him to others, And so he says, everyone needs to always be checking in with themselves on who their friends are, who their doctors are, who their mentors are, and what are they supporting us? And is that really the best for us? And so this is, again, I always call it weeding the garden, really taking that deep inward journey and looking at your life and the people that are in it. So it kind of comes with this 5s, which can be tied to, people pleasing and wanting to fit in. And he knows that that also was an addictive side to that, and kind of a belief that was probably a little more unique to him, that a lot of people may not have in their chart, is this belief of the fame, that if I have, everybody loves me, if I get all this fame and all this adoration, that's going to fill me up, that's going to fill up my cup. And everyone if everyone loves me, I can finally have it's permission to love myself. I've made it. I'm okay. And that's this combination of the 4 and 7, this illusion, mainly the 4, because the 4 is all about abundance. So we can not only manufacture abundance in a positive way, but we can manufacture it in a negative way. And so even though, his 3s would be, the money and people really seeing him coming out of the canal, this canal, and being able to express himself in his job. The 4s still can be tied to this greedy component and wanting to be special, and this fame side of it. And so again, this is more of a not everybody has the fame issue, so that would be his special belief that would apply to him and other famous people like himself. So he did manage to accomplish a lot. 4s have the talents of sharing of themselves and of others, and he started to go down that path of sharing his story, helping others, giving away a lot of his wealth. But he says he spent a lot of money on this addiction. It was so destructive for him. And he also wants me to go here to a card here, so I'm going to pull this. And the card that came out is learning experience. Again, once they get to the other side, and I always hear this from famous people who have crossed over, or people from history, they said it was the ultimate learning experience. And this is no different from Matthew. This is something that will bode him well on his next incarnation. And he's going to expand his consciousness and grow from it. And he's again working with others on the other side in this avenue as well, he's telling me. So let's get another card here from the Sacred Destiny Oracle. And this was the other issue, is focus, focus, focus. When you have a 6, and this is something I wanted to mention, these 6s are tied to addiction. And when you have anything in these challenges perspective, they are extremely difficult to overcome. And because he has so many double numbers in his chart, it gives him a limited perspective as well. He doesn't have as many numbers to draw off of if he had a blended number like a 13-4 or 18-9 or 16-7. He's got very limited numbers in his chart. And so that makes it a little bit harder for him. And that's why this was so difficult. There was nothing easy about this for him. And sixes in challenges have a hard time focusing. And this ADHD energy, this very chaotic energy comes from the sixes. And so it was all about him. There's a lot of snow, and there's this leopard, which represents, he's pointing me to, there's this obstacle here, the mountain, and there's a leopard, and leopards are cats, and that represent independence and being able to change your spots to become something other than what you can see, because with the snow you can't see much. It's very not very clear in this picture. So that's giving you some background on what he was really struggling with, and I give him so much credit when I see this chart and how difficult that it would be to work through these karmic challenges that he took on. So I'm going to stop sharing and come back at this time so we can start to look at what recovery can look like. So there's some basic elements to a recovery process. Admitting the problem is the first thing. Once Matthew said he did start to understand, and it took life to death situations for him. He was in a coma. There was his colon burst at one point. I think he ended up having like 14 or 15, which adds 1 and 5 add up to 6 stomach surgeries. The suffering that he put his body through because of that disconnect that he was going on with is just incredible. So first thing, admitting that you have a problem and a willingness, this goes to the second, a willingness to accept help. And that help has to be somebody or a mentor or a program that believes in you. What troubled me when when I was having communications with Matthew and he was bringing things through is he mentioned that wherever he had gone for treatment, the counselor had sat them down and said, I don't know how many people were in, like 8 or something in their group, or there might have even been more than that, but he said, only one of you will actually succeed in this program. And Matthew wanted to bring that up because he's saying if the people that are mentoring you do not believe in you, do not believe in your power, that is another seed of doubt that's being sown in the mind that is not going to benefit you. So you have to find someone who can sit with you, who can create the space and believe in your power. That is so, so important. And the next belief that you have to work on and you have to be able to accept if you're going to work through your recovery is the belief that your action towards it can change, that you can change. That has to be a commitment, that willingness to accept help. Oh, I'm being drawn to a card. So we're going to go to this archetype cards because so it's what he's wanting to highlight is getting back to the child and to nature. Things that he did not do. He did not have a spiritual plan. He believed in God. he did believe in something bigger than himself, but not having a practice, like a spiritual practice, or there has to be an earnestness about wanting to change, about wanting to heal. And so healing the child is the light side of the child in nature is friendship with animals, communication with nature, spirits, communicating. Now, the shadow part of that is, again, that tendency to abuse animals, people, and the environment. So, again, it has to be this higher purpose, getting back to this childlike innocence and communicating with your spirits. So another thing that's very, very helpful in the recovery process is making an inventory of that addiction journey and sharing that journey with someone else, whether you're writing it down, whether you're writing a book like Matthew did. That's very cathartic and very helpful in your healing journey. We are going to go to the wisdom of the oracle. And here is the leg up, 34. And there's the polar bear, and there's a little polar bear getting help, jumping up on somebody who's more stable, more strong than you are to help give you that stability. And this is a 34, which he had a 3 in his chart, and the 4 we had talked about, both of those numbers, and then they add up to that 7, giving you that a leg up to help you elevate. So that's that willingness to accept help, a sincere commitment to change. Thank you, Matthew. That was wonderful. And he wants me to pull another card from there. So we're going to do that as well. This card popped out, and it's a number 30. It's the 3 again. And this is tick-tock. So this is time. Finding the time, making the time, making the effort. You can see it's hands kind of to letting go of the belief that, oh, I have all the time to get this under control. I can do it next week. I can start on Monday, or I'll start the first of the month. Letting go a little bit of that illusion of time, of the letting go of it, but also he wants you to know that committing to the time, making the time is so, so important. You can't do it unless you make time. If you're just no focus, running around with 100 irons in the fire like he was doing, getting more and more out of control, he wasn't making the time to really commit to the recovery process. So the other recovery issue, or not issue, but recovery step that is important to take is, a willingness to make amends to others you have harmed in your addiction journey, and healing those, that toxic, that behavior. Matthew wished he had done more of that, had reached out to his friends and coworkers and people who had really supported him, that he walked away from, some girlfriends, some people that he didn't treat well because of his addiction and when he was under the influence. So it's really important to continue that, to start to do that process, because that relieves any guilt and shame that we're carrying, because those are lower vibrational energies, and that lifts us up. It lifts us into a higher vibration because it's letting go of those things. Having, and it's not about others forgiving you, it's then you being able to forgive yourself once you start some reparations for those things that you may have done while under the influence. And then, of course, the most important thing is that a belief and acceptance in a higher power, your higher self, source, God, even someone like Matthew on the other side who's going to encourage you and give you signs of where you should look for help, how you should get help, and then to serve others in some way. Matthew was working on that. He was talking to government officials. He was looking at setting aside money for drug courts so that rather than treating drug addicts as criminals, looking at it more in a more holistic and healing instead of putting more shame on people. And so he was really starting to do some wonderful, great work in serving others in some way. And that's another thing that can help heal you and heal others as well. So in order though for a mentorship to thrive, there are things he wants you to know because we had talked about that, someone not really believing in you or letting, people stay in your life that again will not support you. He's saying how people are like, oh, you're not going to have a drink. Oh, you can have one. Or, you know what? I can get you that really cheap, especially when he would just go from one addiction to the other. And the ketamine, I think that was what he had in his system when he died, what that's supposed to help addicts. But again, there's a very precarious position that doctors need to know whether this person is really trying to get better. And then you've got these nefarious doctors who are in it for the money and they're just going to give you as much as you want of it. And so again, it's finding that mentorship that is going to help you thrive, that is going to help you surrender, accept, create an open mind, and then help you work through the resiliency. Even if you fall back and help pick you back up again, it's really important to get some help in that way that you won't be judged for it. You will get, again, because resiliency is we're all working on that. No one's perfect. Nobody does things right out of the gate. And so it's about coming back at it from a new perspective, maybe changing, looking at something else that another belief that might be hindering you in that aspect. So he's saying that definitely mentorship, but keeping in mind how you're working through that mentorship and how that's going. And we are now going to pull a card from the Self-Mastery deck to kind of, so the Tree of Life, as we were just saying with the mentorship, this is travel on. And so this is movement going through the Tree of Life and finding all of those connections and where you may be blocked. So again, this is digging into that spiritual, doing that inner work, building, building your tree, ascending, to the wings where you can fly instead of doing what we in the spiritual world call addictions is the spiritual bypassing people, getting high because they want to feel good instead of doing the work, and the work is painful. But the thing of it is if you continue to try to spiritual bypass, you may get that short high, but then more pain gets on top of more pain. So it causes more and more suffering. So you want to just bite the bullet and start to deal with the pain because you have to go through the whole tree. You have to clean all of the gunk out to get this flowing beautifully again. And that takes work and it's painful. It's not easy. Um, we're gonna draw one more card. I still don't feel like we're quite finished. The importance of taking a step back. This is a great card. You can see, I love the purple and gold, the higher, those are the higher consciousness colors coming through. So take a step back and give yourself a break too. This is not about wallowing in, oh, poor me, the victimhood. We want to break those beliefs as well. But he's saying, take a step back, look at the big picture, take a time out, how important those guidance are. And he's directing me to the book. So we're going to get more of a message about this. Take a step back. And so, what he's wanting to say is your angels are guiding you to take a step back and reflect before proceeding further. There is an excitable and action oriented energy around you at this time, but you are being encouraged to review the situation before making any moves. Remember that you are a sensitive being, and should the correct steps and intentions not be lined up, you could open yourself up to harsh energies or a situation that could be limiting to your growth. In order to have the best experience and a positive outcome, take some time now to meditate on your actions, intentions, visions, and goals. Call in your angels and invite them to guide you to make decisions that will be supportive of your expansion and highest good. And so he would tend to rush in to things. And so this is why he's saying the importance of meditating to find your center, call in the angels, because what he wants to say is when we try to rush ahead or force something to happen, we can often miss signals, signs, and messages that are encouraging us to change course. If you have a big decision to make now or are in the midst of moving a project forward, your angels are encouraging you to take a step back and breathe. What is for you won't go by you. Your angels are encouraging you to step into the energy of trust. When you do so, you will draw universal energy and support to you. If you have concerns about another person or a relationship, this card is guiding you to draw back and respect the space of others. Let this be a time of self care and self awareness. And when you step back, you let the universe step in. Wonderful advice for for people watching. So, he's picking up on that and giving you some guidance there. That's wonderful. And we want to end with, the ultimate goal here is creating the new belief that nothing, no person, place, or thing outside of yourself has the power to make you happy or unhappy. So we will leave it at that. I thank Matthew for guiding us through this video on addiction. And I appreciate you all being here, and I look forward to the next video, and I will see you then. Bye for now.